Right now, Panther fans, we're focusing on the other side of the ball. Football at 4 is all about the defense. And guess what? Bryce Young had nothing to do with the defense. So this air of fresh start and this air of something's different, they made a big change. Now, the defense pretty much just has to improve on their own, right? The big change that has breathed new life into the Panthers has nothing to do with the defense, especially, I would say, like the first half, right? Because I guess if you get into the second half and you say that Bryce Young's 3 and outs were tiring out the defense, all right, fine. If you're collapsing in the fourth quarter because the offense doesn't possess the ball enough, fine. But for the first 3 quarters, the defense is just the defense. And the defense for the Carolina Panthers has given up the most points per game in the NFL thus far. They have given up the most points of any team in the league. They have given up the most points through 2 games in franchise history. They have given up a ton of points.
Lots.
And more concerning, Dennis, and I think we both thought this was going to be better, second most rushing yards per game.
Yeah, 4.9.
That's per carry.
Per carry, yes.
That was supposed to be a strength.
Well, yes, it was.
It was supposed to be. Notice I didn't.
Supposed
to is doing a lot of work in that sentence.
And then the Chargers gashed it for 200 plus.
That's not acceptable.
No. And by the way, Shy Tuttle missed his 3rd day of practice this week. So you're already down Derrick Brown. Now Shy Tuttle's nicked up. He hasn't practiced this week. Yeah. I think they have 6 healthy defensive linemen if you count active roster and practice squad.
Yet despite all of that, they have to play better. They have to. Or else it doesn't matter what Andy Dalton does. Andy Dalton on the other side of the ball is going to do his best to score an adequate amount of points. I don't think it's fair to ask him to go win a shootout against, gunslinger Gardner Minshew and Devontae Adams and Brock Bowers and everyone else over there with the Raiders. You need to get after the quarterback if you're the Carolina defense. You cannot give them all day to throw. You need to stop the run. It can't just be J.C. Horn making an occasional big play, but I will give him credit for trying and doing everything he can, even if he got burnt for a touchdown. I don't think that touchdown should have counted because the previous play, J.C. Horn forced a fumble, and I didn't think the review showed that it shouldn't have been a fumble. But here's my whole point here. The offense has a reason to expect different outcomes. All right? If you are Deontay Johnson, if you are Jadeveon Sanders, if you are Robert Hunt, you're looking around saying, I can play as good as I've been playing, and we will have an increase in production because we have a different player at quarterback. If you are on defense for the Carolina Panthers, that doesn't exist. If you don't play better as individuals, your defense will not get better. There is, like, if Derrick Brown were coming back next week, then sure, when Derrick Brown comes back, you'd expect the defense to play better. He's not. He's on season-ending IR. So the players on the Panthers, simply on the Panthers defense, simply have to figure out a way to individually improve. There's nobody that is coming to save them. Ejiro Evero, the defensive coordinator, there is no ace in the hole that you have, no secret sauce that you can sprinkle on this defense in terms of a new player or something that you've kept in the back of the playbook. It is about, and to his credit, Jadeveon Clowney, their big free agent who hasn't really had much production, when he speaks to the media, he calls it like he sees it. He goes, no, we just got to look at the guy who's across from us and whip their tail. There's, I respect the heck out of. Sometimes I don't love the way he treats the media, but I respect the way the heck out of the way Greg Popovich coaches. Mm-hmm. And first of all, I also love him mic'd up. If you listen to the show, I'm listening to all the mic'd up segments. He was mic'd up one time, and this was his timeout. Calls a timeout, right? And he's got a veteran team, so maybe it's a little different. It was the Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker era. and the players all come over and they sit down. Starters or the guys on the court are sitting down in the folding chairs, right? And the coach goes and discusses with his assistant coach, and they're talking, and they're talking, and they're talking, and the timeout's almost over, and he walks over to the players and he sits down and he looks at him and he goes, "You guys just got to play better." End of timeout.
Okay, got it.
And what I respected about it was sometimes that's just it. Sometimes it's like, you know, hey, we're scheming open shots, and you're a good shooter. There's nothing else I can do here. Like, that's the scheme worked.
Yeah, make the shot.
So the same is kind of true for the Panthers. It's like, hey, if the offensive lineman is just moving our defensive lineman back so he can't get in the gap that he's supposed to fill, I don't know. I can't call the defense that like is makes it so you aren't responsible for anything. Like, you're gonna have to get in the gap that we ask you to cover up. You're gonna have to hold your own against the offensive line. If J.C. Horn gets beat one-on-one by Quentin Johnston like he did last week in the Chargers game, I don't know if Ejiro Evero is looking around going like, what a bad call by me. You had your best cover guy on what up to last week was a bust of a wide receiver, and they won. It's like, well, all I can do is put J.C. Horn there.
Mm-hmm.
And the same is true on all of these different cases, right? Jadeveon Clowney, you might get double-teamed. Do you know why? Because you're the best and only real name recognition we have up front. I don't think there's a play call Evero has to not get you double-teamed. The timeout is called. I'm going to need you to beat the double team. All right. and then you go to the other side.
On it, Coach.
Hey, JC, don't get beat by that guy. It's not always the crazy, you know, hey, guys, I know we've been a 4-down defensive lineman system this entire time. Let's go to 3 down and let's blitz every play because we're going to obviously what we're doing isn't working. You can't always just uproot everything you're doing.
The one thing that you hope for the defense is that they're not on the field so much.
I said that, I think, while you were logging it.
I was going to say, actually, I got numbers here. I got stats.
Ooh, I like
here. The Carolina Panthers, in terms of total plays per game, offensively, average 50.5. That's next to last
Not very good.
in the entire NFL.
You want to be up near like 70.
Yeah. Well, the highest in the NFL right now is there's 3 teams that are 70 or above. They're Detroit, Philly, and Miami. In terms of time of possession, Carolina Panthers defensively are out there for over 36 minutes a game, which is the second most in the entire NFL. The only team that has been out there more is the Indianapolis Colts.
They're not very good either.
Yes. So that's the thing. Like, maybe if the offense is out there a little more, defense might be a little bit more fresh. But some of the stuff that's happening is like you're getting gashed for long runs in the first quarter. You're not tired right now. That's
the point I made earlier. You can't blame tired on giving up a deep touchdown to Rashid Shaheed on the essentially first pass of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, the offense wasn't on the field long enough. They hadn't even had the ball yet.
Yeah.
If it were just second half collapses, I do think you could look at the offense and say, you're wearing out your defense. But it's like, watch the first half and the second half. There's not a lot different as far as the defense struggling. And I'd be even more mad if they were like pacing themselves. If they're like, well, we don't put all the effort out there in the first quarter because, I don't want to be tired in the fourth. It's like, no, it's much more of like a 400-meter sprint than a mile. You just run as fast as you can and hope you reach that finish line. You're not out there checking your watch to make sure you're not running too fast on the opening strides. With that being said, don't sleep on the Raiders. Gardner Minshew may not be the best, but he's definitely good enough to gash you. And Brock Bowers looks like the real one early in his career as a tight end.